Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here today. Today is a big day. This morning I tabled a piece of legislation, Bill 387, and it is intended to protect the pensions of hardworking Canadians, of Canadian seniors all across this country. You know, Canadian workers deserve the security of a dignified retirement. We know that workers and seniors across this country have worked and earned the pensions that they deserve through the CPP. And we know that the CPP is a critical piece of making life more affordable for seniors and for people across the country. We also know that the CPP is the #1 ranked pension plan in the world. Because it is so strong, it is something that Canadian workers and Canadian seniors can depend upon, something that Canadians can depend upon in their retirement. But I have to say, it's under attack right now. And I'm here with Blake Desjarlais, the member from Edmonton Griesbach, to talk about the steps we're taking within the New Democratic Party to protect the CPP, to protect Canadians' pensions, to protect workers and seniors across this country. As you know, Danielle Smith with the Alberta Conservative Party has been attacking the CPP. She's been talking about taking Alberta out of the Canadian pension plan. It's dangerous, it's risky, it's reckless, and Albertans don't want it. I've spoken to seniors, I've spoken to Albertans from across the province. They do not want to have Danielle Smith meddle with the very, very valuable pension that we have within the CPP. And so we're trying to come up with a way to stop Danielle Smith to be able to do that. But I have to say, this is not just something that will impact Albertans. This is something that impacts all Canadians. Because right now, we have a leader of the Conservative Party of Canada who has said time and time again that he doesn't believe in the CPP. You know, way back to when he was young, he talked about cutting the CPP. When he was a minister in Harper's government, they cut supports for seniors. They talked about the CPP as if it was a tax, not as if it was a well-earned pension for Canadians. And right now, the way the legislation sits is that it requires simply ministerial approval for a province to pull out of the CPP. So let's envision what happens if we do end up with a Pierre Poilievre government and Danielle Smith is given permission to take Alberta out of the pension plan, and then Saskatchewan, and then Ontario, and then we don't have a pension plan. So the #1 pension plan in the world is then destroyed. This is what we're trying to prevent. This is what we're fighting against. It's just far too risky to allow our pension to be decided by Conservatives. I'm going to invite my colleague Blake Desjarlais to come and speak for a minute about his thoughts on it.
Thank you very much, Heather. I seconded the bill C-387 to protect pension plan for Albertans, and it's important to do this, not just for Albertans, but for all Canadians. And I want to speak about how important it is for young Canadians in particular. The promise of a kind of Canada that says when you go to work, when you work really hard, and when you make sure that you give to your country everything you got and you build up a society that your grandchildren can benefit from. And then one day you can actually retire from a life of service and then enjoy those grandchildren is the promise of Canada. It's a promise that says no matter who you are, where you live, how much you make, or even who you love, that this is the kind of Canada that you belong to. One that respects you, that respects workers, that respects the contributions you make. I know young people right now who are suffering from the affordability crisis at a record level. When things like housing and food are so expensive, it gets even worse when they're told you're going to work your whole life and there's no finish line. This is a serious thing. It's a serious thing for generations that are right now contributing to the CPP. I've spoken to people in my constituency of Edmonton Griesbach, seniors who are worried that they can't make ends meet. And if they take away the CPP, what will they have left? Parents of the children of grandparents may have to shoulder that burden, or worse yet, they're going to have to leave their parents behind. This isn't the kind of Canada that many people work for. This isn't the kind of future that people show up to. When I think of Mr. Poilievre and his attacks on the CPP, we don't have to look all too far in our own history here in Canada to see that he's the same guy who was the bag man for Stephen Harper when they tried to increase the OAS from 65 to 67. A cruel, cruel plan that would take tens of thousands of dollars away from seniors. It would put seniors on to continue to work longer than they had to, depriving them of the very valuable time that they deserve with their grandchildren and their children. In my tradition, we respect elders. We respect them because they carried us. They've given to this country, and they've given to us. We must acknowledge our inheritance, but even more so, we have to protect it. This is the future for all Canadians. It's a future that doesn't just impact seniors today, it impacts working people right now, and it impacts those generations yet to come. I believe, and Heather believes, in a Canada that says, if you work hard, you're going to get rewarded for it. You're going to make it to the finish line, and you're going to retire, and you should enjoy that retirement. You shouldn't have to worry about how you're going to make ends meet. And that's the kind of promise that New Democrats stand for, and that's the one we're here to protect today.
And so just to give you some very quick information, the gist of this bill is that this bill will in fact give more power back to Canadians, more power back to Albertans, more power back to the provinces. So instead of it being simply the government, the federal government negotiating with one province, because the impacts are felt by all Canadians, all provinces would have a say. So like the rest of the legislation, it would require a two-thirds vote of support for one province to be able to separate from the CPP. This gives more power to the provinces. This gives more power to Albertans who do not want to have their pensions meddled with, and it gives more power to all Canadians whose pensions will be impacted. And we're happy to take questions.
Yeah, so you said you just tabled it. Is that the only thing that it seeks to do, is that it requires 2/3 of provinces to sign off on one province wishing to leave the CPP? Do I have that right?
Yeah, and just so you're aware, the entire Act has a two-thirds for any changes. This is the only part of the Act that doesn't require a two-thirds support. So it's really just making sure that the Act is in line throughout, that is consistent throughout.
Have you spoken to anyone in the federal government? Do you know if you get if you'll get support from the Liberals on this?
So we did table it this morning. I plan on giving it to Minister Freeland. I would very much like them to take it and implement it right away. The risk of a Pierre Poilievre government coming in and dismantling the CPP is just too high. So we would like the government to take this bill. It's theirs. We've tabled it, but they can have it, and they would have the support of the NDP to pass it very, very quickly.
Is it just the inconsistency that you take issue with? Like a province is, if it gives 3 years notice, like it has the legal pathway to, like I know that's what you're looking to change, but why is that something specifically you take issue with? If a province chooses, it currently has that right, why shouldn't it have that right?
Because I think the CPP is for all Canadians. And so all Canadians should have a say in the direction of the CPP. There is implications on all provinces, and so all provinces should have a say. So really, this is me saying that the provinces should have more say, and the Canadians and Albertans should have more say in how their pension is run. We are very lucky in this country to have such a strong, solid Canadian pension plan, and all Canadians should have a say on how that's managed.
Is it just me? Is there anyone on Zoom? Okay, great.
Take all the time you need.
Awesome. A little off topic. You're both Alberta MPs. The Trans Mountain Pipeline, after 6 years, $34 billion, is finally finished. Ms. McPherson, I know this is something you've said you've supported in the past. Do you have any thoughts now that it's done? Any reflections? Was it worth it?
For me, the biggest challenge that I have is that I don't see this government taking steps, taking action on real, meaningful climate change. So in terms of this, the costs skyrocketed. It was managed extraordinarily poorly. And really what I'm not seeing is the provincial government or the federal government taking steps to take meaningful climate action. And so what we're looking at right now in Alberta, wildfires. We had a wildfire in Griesbach, a grass fire in Griesbach. We've wildfires that never went out from last year. February was when our wildfire season started. We have farmers in southern Alberta who are selling their herds because they can't feed them. And so the government is taking a victory lap on the TMX, but I don't see them doing what needs to be done to stop oil and gas subsidies, to make sure that we're doing more for climate mitigation and adaptation. Blake, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Oh, that's great.
Thanks.
So the kind of environmental file, this question is probably better directed towards Laurel Collins or Charlie Angus, but we're expecting amendments to the Impact Assessment Act to come shortly, so as soon as this week perhaps. Do you know if your party has been consulted on these changes? You guys voted against C-69 the first time around. How do you feel about the changes if you were consulted?
So certainly that is a question that's probably best put to Laurel and Charlie, and I'm sure they'd be happy to answer it. I will say one thing is that right now in Alberta, one of the biggest concerns that we have with the Impact Assessment Act is that we want it to be used when coal mining is threatening the Rocky Mountains. This is another situation where the Alberta government is trying to sort of sidestep the will of Albertans. Albertans have made their wishes very clear. We don't want our Rocky Mountains to be coal mined. We had put forward legislation that would use the Impact Assessment Act to make it much more difficult for mining companies to come in and basically blow the tops off the Rocky Mountains. So we want to make sure that those protections are still there and that there is still federal oversight, because frankly, we can't trust the provincial government of Alberta to protect our environment.
Was, I'll be honest, I've yet to read the full article, but I saw the headline in the Hill Times that said you'd like the next leader of the NDP to be a woman or should be a woman.
Yeah.
I have to ask, were you referring to yourself when you said
Absolutely
that?
not. No, and certainly, I mean, my team, the NDP team, is fantastic. We work together. I think you probably read in the article that it was, we're a bit like a family, I think more than the other parties. And working with Jagmeet has been such an incredible honor and continues to be such an incredible honor because of all the things he gets for Canadians, all of the wins that he's been able to get, things like the pharmacare, the dental care, anti-scab legislation, key pieces. So no, I am more than happy to continue to work with Jagmeet, and certainly looking forward into the future, we need to have more people in politics that represent more than one group of people.
Thanks.
Good job. Let's see this little water here. Oh, look at that.
Cheers.
Thank you. Yeah, clean water.
Drinking water. Oh, we have to go.